So welcome to Taking the Biz, and in this A-level revision tutorial we're going to be investigating the topic of demand. Now, demand is the number of consumers who are willing and able to purchase a product at the price that it is for sale at. And the general law of demand is that the cheaper a product is, the lower its price has reached, the higher the level of demand will be, so that as prices come down in markets, the number of consumers willing and able to purchase that good will increase. But there are a number of determinants of demand that will influence the level of demand for a good or service regardless of its price, so that even if the price of that product remains constant, the demand for it may change based on these determinants. Now, the first determinant of demand is the price of substitute goods. So what are the prices that rivals are charging? Because that influences the demand for our good or service. We might find that we might keep our prices constant, but if there is a substitute good that consumers could buy that's cheaper than what we're selling, we might experience a fall in demand even though our price remains unchanged. Another determinant of demand is the price not of substitute goods but of complementary goods, goods that naturally could be purchased alongside ours. And if the price of those complementary goods becomes more expensive, the demand for our good might reduce even though our prices remain constant, because now it's become more expensive for consumers to buy these goods together. For example, a complementary good of breakfast cereal might be milk, and if the price of milk rises, people might buy less breakfast cereal because they're items that are commonly purchased together. Consumer incomes can also play a role in determining the level of demand in a market. As consumer incomes rise, if our prices remain constant and people are earning more and have greater disposable incomes, it may well be that demand for our good or service rises as well. But for many goods, if incomes are to be reduced and people experience falling disposable incomes, it might damage demand for the particular good or service that they are selling. As prices remain constant, we should remember that tastes and fashions are often changing as well. Certain things rise in popularity, whilst other things, particularly fads, go out of fashion. So it might be that even though prices remain constant, when something becomes more popular, when something becomes more fashionable, when society places a greater value on a particular good or service that might be in vogue or in trend, then demand for it can increase. Now, the business can be proactive with this and try and use advertising and branding to try and increase demand of the goods and services it sells. So prices might remain constant, but products that are heavily invested in through advertising might reach a larger market and might have greater appeal. And if businesses can develop stronger brand names so that a business's products become more valuable and sought after by consumers, it might be that having a particular brand name might increase demand even though prices haven't been reduced. Demographics can also play some role in determining the level of demand as well. As the construct of who's living in society evolves and changes, it might mean the demand for certain goods and services increases, whilst the demand for other goods and services diminishes. For example, in the UK, we have an ageing population. The average age of people living in certain areas of the UK is rising, and that might lead to a rise in demand for goods and services valued by more mature consumers. External shocks can also influence demand as well. So take, for example, a natural disaster on a tourist destination. Obviously, consumers might be less willing or more cautious when thinking about visiting that particular area. So even though price hasn't influenced demand, external shocks might. And for certain goods and services, the issue of seasonality might determine demand as well. For example, goods like ice cream or sun cream might be in far higher demand during warmer months of the year than they might be during winter or cooler months of the year. So we've got 8 different factors that might help determine the level of demand for a particular good or service. It's important to know the different determinants of demand. Hopefully that video will help you. We'll see you soon for another Taking the Biz tutorial.